Hello and welcome to Teenagers Untangled, the audio hug for parents going through the teenage years. I'm Rachel Richards, parenting coach, mother of 2 teenagers and 2 bonus daughters.
Hi there, I'm Susie Asley, mindfulness coach, mindful therapist, musician and mother of 3 teenagers, 2 of them are twins.
Now, Susie, would you say that you're sporty?
No, I mean at school I wasn't sporty at all. I was with my good friend. We were the ones hiding in the lockers going, I don't want to go to the gym.
Miss, I've got my period.
Yeah, pretty much. But the 2, it's kind of ironic, the 2 of us now probably do more exercise than any of the others.
Wow,
so
really? That is very interesting.
If that's linked or just a total coincidence. But so I wasn't sporty at school, but I do a lot of exercise now. So I love it.
Well, Nicola contacted us because she wants to encourage her teen daughter, who's 12, to exercise more. I love this request because it's one of the areas that I feel really that I'm not doing the best job in, and I worry about it all the time. Yeah. And I'll explain more why later, but it is something that vexes me. And it's very interesting to hear you say that you now exercise more.
Yes.
So it's not all hope is not lost.
I'm curious about your thoughts around that.
Right. So before we go on, let's have a quick talk about nuggets. And we've kind of been worrying about the same things this week, haven't we? We've been thinking about what's been some of the terrible events that have been unfolding around the world. And I think it's hard for us, but for our teenagers when it's really their first, we've had what's gone on in Ukraine, but for a lot of teenagers, seeing what's been going on in Israel is extremely upsetting.
Yes.
And there's a lot of graphic information coming out and people taking very strong sides.
Yes.
And I think what I'm trying to do with my kids who ask me about stories is I say, okay, so rather than just talking about the story, I talk about where they got the story from. What's your source? Where are the facts? Which bits are opinion and which are facts? And when you're listening to it, who's saying this? Yeah. Because I'd rather use this as an opportunity to try and get them to think about the sorts of sides people take, why they form the opinions they have, and where they might be able to get some peace. Because this is an intractable problem. I can't see where the peace comes from in Israel. It's horrific. It's but I do think it's really worth it. So, because when I was a BBC correspondent, one of the things that we were told was that if you are going to share information, it needs to have come from at least 2, if not 3 credible sources. Yeah. And so you can get 2 strong sources where you can verify that those people are going to be telling the truth, or you can get a 3rd source which is not as credible, but you're getting the same information. And then you can say, okay, it's safe to share. So as an example, the New York Times wrote a headline talking about Israeli airstrikes on a Gaza hospital. And shortly after that, the Israelis then said, well, that wasn't us. That actually came from within Gaza and we have evidence. And then the New York Times changed its headline. And the point being that this news is unfolding so quickly and even the, reliable institutions aren't necessarily giving you, they're not holding back. And that's actually really inflammatory.
And it's really important. I think that's a brilliant point. And it's really important that our teens, well, that we all learn, but we're trying to teach our teens that they learn that, there isn't really any such thing as the truth. And they teach this in history. I remember learning this years ago. But, it's a truth and there are many truths. And I think that idea that you have to have 2 or 3 veritable sources is brilliant because that can be used in life as well, can't it? Just not believing everything you hear or everything you see. And an amazing lesson in empathy.
Yes.
That we can learn. There are always 2 sides, 3 sides, 4 sides, 5 sides. And what are they? And can we be really, can we step back and look at all of it? And talking to our teens about these subjects, I think it's really important as well to consider our particular teens as in everything, because I have 3 kids and they approach news in general in really differently. Like one of them's not particularly interested and I sort of wondered, is it really important that they know about it? Is that something I should be imparting and making them up to date? But I'm not sure that is necessary. It's an interesting topic, whereas it was the others are like they want to know, or they hear bits and they, it comes up in discussion. Picking just like seeing your kid and seeing what do they need to know is actually really important, because it can be so upsetting.
And I've moved on from trying to get my kids to, because I used to listen to the Today programme, which is the flagship news programme in the UK from the BBC, every morning. But I've moved on from that because actually, do we really want to hear blow by blow accounts? And I get them to read The Week, which is more of a sort of summary of what's been going on that's distilled, and The Economist, or publications that are thinking about this stuff and reflecting rather than just doling out news without a real filter their own filter.
Yeah, it gets really into our psyche, and sometimes that's really important. I think it's really important to stay up to date. And I know I have done in the past, get stuck in this because it's so negative. You get stuck in it and it's really hard to get out. And I don't think that's a great example for our kids, teaching them be informed, dip in and out, and then, if you can, leave it. But this is a great example because it's not a great example. It is heartbreaking, but it's really important how we tackle it.
One of my daughters is very, very interested in what's going on. And when I was dropping her off just this week, she said to me, "So what do you think of the latest thing?" And I turned to her and I said, "You know what? I don't know, because I haven't been reading it the last couple of days." And she looked at me askance, because of course my background's news. And I said, "I'm giving myself a break." Yeah. Because I'm not in the right frame of mind to be absorbing this. There's only so much I want to take on, and I want to get my kids to understand that that's okay.
Yeah, to dip in and out.
Yes, it's very important.
Really important.
Yes.
Really important, because we go down a rabbit hole otherwise.
I know, and get stuck. Anyway.
It's important.
And there are some wonderful things in the world that we need to focus on as well. So coming back to girls exercising.
Yes.
Right. So, Susie, do you want some statistics?
I'd love some statistics. I love some statistics.
I have been trawling.
Who doesn't love some statistics?
There's a study by researchers from the World Health Organization, which was published in 2019. I know it's a bit old now, but it's still relevant. They found that more than 80% of school-going adolescents around the world aged 11 to 17 did not meet current recommendations of at least 1 hour of moderate or vigorous physical activity per day.
I can totally believe that.
Totally believe that. Yep. And across almost 146 countries that they studied, between 2001 and 2016, girls were less active than boys, with an average of 35% of females being active compared to 57% of males.
Also totally believe that. I have twin girl and boy, and they are now 15, almost 16, and they have to do they do sport in school, and there are half the amount of girls doing it as boys.
Isn't that interesting?
And there's a vibe around it that it doesn't really matter. Whereas the boys are more active, and of course there's some boys that aren't interested in it, but it's absolutely different for boys and girls.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Yes. And physical activity declined steadily from 9th grade to 12th grade for both genders. But 73% of countries in the study saw the gender gap widen between 2001 and 2016.
Right.
And the co-author of the study, Dr. Leanne Riley, said more opportunities to meet the needs and interests of girls are needed to attract and sustain their participation.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Okay, so really interesting.
Just from the basic stuff I see every day.
No, quite. And there was a report by the University of Georgia published in Science Daily, which suggested a supportive school environment is linked to higher activity levels. Go figure. And I just think this is really interesting because on that note, we were both in boot camp this morning, which you've been doing for years.
We went to boot camp. It was so much fun.
You've been doing it for years and turning up and going, I've just been to this. And then I eventually said, wait, Susie, what is this boot camp? And then you told me, you should have told me years ago. Anyway, it's fantastic.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting, brilliant. And I can't do half of it, but I try. And turning up is the most important thing. So, but what was really interesting was there's this absolutely lovely lady there. And we just ended up talking about schools. And she said, oh, my kid's school insists on every single person, it's a co-ed, every single school child has to do a team sport. It's non-negotiable. And that absolutely made me panic. And it's all about me because I just feel like I'm letting my kids
Is that why you couldn't do the push-ups? I was watching.
No, I think that's just because I actually am not strong enough. But
kidding, she was doing fine.
So, it's so funny, isn't it? Because even though she was not trying to make me feel scared or upset, but I thought, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And then
and
I
that's
started
super
having,
unusual as well.
yeah,
think,
it's very
to make it
unusual.
not
And I
optional.
started having a conversation with myself going, it's okay, but do they need to do team sports? And then I remembered when I went for my very first job interview when I finished university, and the person who interviewed me said, do you know what's the most impressive thing on this CV? And I looked at him saying, is it my 2-1? And he said, no, I'm not interested in that. He said, it's that you rode competitively in the first 4 for your university.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, oh, okay, right. So obviously other people seem to think this is really, really important.
Well, it's the discipline, isn't it? It's the team
and the
mentality.
turning up.
It's like, learning a musical instrument. It's discipline, practice, getting stuff done.
Yes. And the problem I have is that, so my older daughter loved sports, played team sports, hockey, netball, things like that. I would turn up to these things, and we'll go into it later, but I don't really understand any of these sports because I didn't do any as a teenager because my school didn't offer them. And I kind of didn't understand what to do. So I just stand on the side going, yay, go, yay, and trying to be really enthusiastic, but not really knowing what I should do. And she's now given up these team sports because she said, you know what, I'm not brilliant at them. And there are so many other kids that are brilliant at them who all get all the accolades. And then if you're sort of in the third team, nobody actually trains you. They're all very lackluster. But I think that's a real problem.
Oh, it's such a shame, because that means, and I see it all the time, we're teaching kids to do sport and teams, and if you're good, then that's really worthy and worthwhile, and a bit stressful as well, because there's a lot of pressure
because you need to try and keep in the team.
But it's all with this ethos that, you're going to be really amazing, you've got to win, rather than teaching our children how to exercise for life
and
maybe enjoy doing a team sport for life, but because most of them get put off because it doesn't feel very fun.
Yes, and exactly that, which I was going to mention later, but I will mention it now, which is my older bonus daughter's best friend, when she went to senior school, got a sports scholarship. Within a year, she'd given up her sports.
Yeah.
And I said, why? And she said, because they've taken all the fun out of it. It's
exactly
all about you've got to win. Yeah. And she said, I don't enjoy it anymore.
No, it's silly.
And I just see that as a school completely letting down.
So I have twins. My son is really sport. He loves sport. That's his favourite thing. Football he loves it. But he loves running. Well, he doesn't actually love running. That's not true. He's good at running. He doesn't love it. But football is the one he loves. His twin sister is actually pretty sporty, but she doesn't really like it. She can't really be bothered.
Interesting.
But she's carrying on, which is unusual for her age group, I think, which is great. And I just remember when they were younger, so before they were teenagers, but he'd come back from a match, or I'd go and try and watch as many as I could. And he'd be really into it, and it'd be, the ins and outs of the whole match, which I didn't really understand, but I'd just kind of make sure I was watching at the right moment. And then my daughter would come back and I'd go, well, how was it? And she'd go, oh, it was really fun. I made a new friend, and her name is so, and we got juice and a biscuit afterwards. And then I'd go, 5 minutes later, did you win? What was the score? Don't know. She had fun.
Yes.
I mean, he did too, but it's very different
approach. Yeah. I love that. It's very interesting. I love that you've got two different genders.
And that's not
there.
a boy-girl thing. That's just their particular interests.
And so let's talk about the health background. How does why do we care? And in terms of just the studies that I've seen, I'm just going to chuck all the details in. So obviously we have an obesity epidemic in most of the Western world. It improves physical and mental health. It builds endurance, bone and muscle strength, aerobic fitness. It helps maintain a healthy weight and improve sleep. Exercise helps teens' mental health as well. It releases stress-busting endorphins and lowers the body's production of stress hormones. It improves thinking and memory skills. It reduces the risk of depression, helps teens feel more energetic and positive. I mean, we know, this morning that one of the ladies said, oh, I just didn't want to come. It was really rainy. And now I feel amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
We all know that actually, if you go in and you get through these things, it feels great. And one study said that adolescents with high levels of physical activity perform better in school over 2 years. So if that's your thing, well, there's also that.
Yeah. I mean, my eldest had really bad back problems for ages, for various reasons, and it's fine now. But one of the people we went to see, he was a pediatric rheumatologist. We went everywhere. But this guy really knew what he was talking about. And the reason I'm bringing it up now is he is really appalled, and it's his mission to change this. Good luck to him. I think he's amazing. That he feels that most kids do not have basic strength, even the kids that do loads of sport.
Interesting.
And he notices this, and that's why kids are having back problems and all the different problems that they didn't used to have. And he says, we don't let them climb trees anymore. We don't let them, and they're not walking they're not mucking around in the street. They're, we're driving them everywhere. We're going, oh, careful, come down from the tree, you'll break your neck. They're not doing those basic things anymore. And, there's pluses and minuses to that. We've changed, our society has changed, but he is seeing the effects of that, and he's really seeing it, with back problems, and even with elite young sports people. He said they don't have the basic strength always, even though they're training massively. They don't have that basic strength. And there's loads of science behind it. I can't bring that up, or I can't remember it now. But it was kind of shocking.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Yes, that core that you get from all this.
Yeah, it's the core, but it's just all, just hanging from a tree, just basic stuff, climbing around, climbing on your siblings, all of that.
And so why is this happening? Well, there is screen time. Mm-hmm. Our days are limited. Yes. And according to the latest statistics from Common Sense Media and Ofcom, now these are organisations in the UK, that teen screen time, the average is 7 hours and 22 minutes a day.
Blimey.
And that's an average. So, I mean, there was in UK, there was a campaign last year by the England women's football team who said every girl in the nation should be offered the opportunity to play football at school, and the government should ensure all girls can access a minimum of 2 hours of phys ed a week. The UK government has announced that it's going to do this and provide equal access. But the magazine Schools says the requirement, first of all, it's not going to be statutory. So it's not a legal requirement. And also school leaders warned that school timetables are already crammed with a multitude of expectations.
Yeah. We don't prioritise it.
And there's not enough funding.
No.
And it's very
or
hard
space
to put on. Yes, absolutely. I mean, when I was in London, when my kids were first born, I looked around some of the schools and they have literally a pocket handkerchief size, and some of them, the playground is on the very top of the building with all the cars going around. Yeah. And I nearly cried because I grew up in Africa with so much space. Yeah. And I just thought, how is this okay for our kids?
Yeah. And it's not realistic
space.
To do sports in those facilities.
Yeah, so it's just not realistic. Exactly. So, this kind of, there's an ideal, and all the people who've got money who can send their kids to the schools where they can do this, that's fantastic. Yes, but it's not exactly.
Yeah, and it's also not prioritised. It's a bit like the arts and, the creative subjects.
Agree.
They're very secondary or tertiary even, they're not important, but they're really important from all the facts you've just said.
Yeah, so why is it such a big thing for me? Well, my uncle actually ran for England. So he obviously he was driven. I have the physiology that would make me good at this. But he wasn't around when I was a teenager. And I grew up in a family who were completely sedentary. Nobody exercised at all. Nobody did any sports. No one talked about it. We did go on hikes and have picnics when we were in Africa, but that was it. And they used to call me the mountain goat because I'd be off up, And in the teen years, my school had a field, and that was it. And I didn't play netball. I didn't play hockey. I didn't do none of these things. No. Or tennis or any. So what happens is if you come from that sort of environment, it feels really alien. The sporting thing. I ran because we had a cross country. Yeah, I did cross country, so I'm a good runner.
You need shoes for that, don't you?
You need shoes, but because I wasn't close to my uncle, I didn't have anybody in my sort of group that did this. I had a friend who played tennis, but that was because her parents took her to tennis courts that were in the town she lived in. That wasn't my experience. So, yes, as a parent, you can do that. And the other experience for me was we did have a trampoline and I was good at it. And they said, would you like to, trampoline? Yes. But most of the time, because it's a big class, you're marking people. So you get 5 minutes and that's it. And then when they did a display, I'm looking at this thinking, I do not want to be a teenage girl jumping up and down with everyone standing underneath looking at my crutch.
But again, it's that fair enough.
Stuff, right?
Again, it's that idea, you're good at it, so you get to do it.
Yes.
How about we all do it?
How about we all do it? But you see, there's a general problem because if the facilities aren't there, or the class sizes are too big. And we were in a girls' school, but there was a boys' school literally next door to us that shared the field, and there was an invisible line down the field. And when we would go and run, the boys would be shouting, "Instant milkshake!"
Oh my God!
And it was just the whole thing was excruciating.
Hideous.
It was excruciating. Yeah. So the reason I'm saying this, and even if you went to the local swimming pool, you suddenly became excruciatingly conscious of your body in a swimsuit. I was wearing swimsuits. So people are all staring at you. And it's very, so I guess I wanted to say this because I think that we need to understand the experience for girls. And do you remember the beach volleyball team who actually said, right, we don't want to wear these clothes anymore. And they're these tiny, skimpy knickers.
Right. That was quite a big deal, wasn't it?
Yes. And everyone's going, no, but we like seeing you in them.
Oh, God. Hideous. Absolutely.
Right?
Hideous. Yeah. It's becoming clear as we're talking, there's sport and there's exercise. And they're not necessarily the same thing, are they? There's team sport, which is obviously great for so many different things. And for some people, that's so much fun. And then there's exercise, there's keeping healthy in your own body. But we all know, and we've talked about loads of times, teens want to do stuff with their mates.
Correct.
So if their mates are sporty and they want to kick a ball around at break time, then they'll do that too. If their mates aren't interested in it, they're not going to go.
No.
And I think that's what happens for a lot of girls, that a lot of them drop out.
Yes.
And then if your mates aren't going, then it's just not interesting. It's not fun, and you have to be really into it to go without your mates. Which
I think
happens,
that's 100% spot on.
It's abnormal.
Yeah, and it feels very exposed. My younger daughter said, I want to go and do this, but she's going on her own. It's no fun.
Yeah, no, it's much more fun with your mates. Yes. You have to be super into it to do it on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about how you motivate a teen to exercise. I think we start with, why aren't they? Try and understand.
Yeah.
So it's worth actually trying to unpack it, because it might be the things like feeling uncomfortable about the sorts of clothes that they're wearing, or the environment that they're having to exercise in, and being made to feel embarrassed by other people. Perhaps they had a bad experience. If you've got children who are dyspraxic, it's really
challenging. But again, it's within the context of being good or not good at it. But we can't really change that. But we can instill that in our own kids. But they're up against quite a lot there. And I think maybe more for boys, I don't know, I'm sure it happens with girls, but I've experienced anyway with boys, there are lots of very enthusiastic dads, and it's amazing. I mean, I love it, but they take their boys out and they kick a ball around from when they can walk.
Yes.
And it's really well intentioned and really fun, but it means that a lot of boys get advanced very quickly if their dads are into it and all of that. And then it becomes really competitive, because there are also quite a lot of dads who are very competitive with it. Not all of them.
There are mothers too.
And mothers, I know it goes both ways. But I experienced that, we moved here when my eldest was 6, and he hadn't really been doing football. And I can't play football, and I had 3 very small children. So training football in the garden was not a priority.
Mm-hmm. No, quite.
So he wasn't one of the best, and that's at the age of 6.
Yes,
it's outrageous.
Yes. And so there's a book called Bounce. Have you read it, by Matthew Syed? Really interesting, and he talks about how the Canadian hockey team. He was just watching them, the ice hockey team, and his wife said, "Hey, that's really interesting. Do you see all the guys are born either January or February?" And he said, "What? That doesn't sound right." And when he looked at it, he said, they were. Yeah. But in Canada, that's when you start school. Yep. So, these kids, they're advanced. And then what happens is it just kind of carries them along. If their parents have so yes, if you want to be a competitive parent, get your kids doing it really early with the family. Yeah. So we have to be doing this.
But if you're not doing it, then it's really hard for the kids.
Exactly.
But you can't, it's possible. And explaining that, it's hard in the 6, but the idea that you can already be behind at the age of 6 is just
painful.
Or if you haven't started ballet quick enough, that everyone's better than you. I mean, it's just horrible. I hate it. And just keep reminding them that it's not talent. I mean, there obviously is such a thing as talent, but most of it is time spent. and just keep chugging at it.
Yes.
It's a kind of, I feel it's a shame that we have to do that, but we are in that situation, and just keep reminding them that it's not the end of the world.
No, so we can model healthy exercise behaviours like talking ourselves about, I just went to boost my boot camp and it was brilliant. I feel so much better. Plan active holidays, schedule regular walks as a family. We go and walk the dogs at the weekend.
Or maybe, try new sports yourself and show them that you're a beginner and that's okay to do it. I did that with tennis. I was terrible.
Were you? Hey, let's play.
I played, really bad. I played with my youngest boy and it was really fun. And then he went, Mum, do you think you could have a couple of lessons? Because it would be a lot more fun.
I've had exactly the same experience. Oh, well, I think we should play.
Okay.
Let's play. Okay, right. We'll probably just end up blending. So the modelling healthy behaviour, and also finding the fun.
Yes.
And so one of the reasons I love BoostFit, which I've mentioned on my social media and I've mentioned on this before, which is an exercise class I go to on a Saturday, is because it's massive fun. It's like going to a party on a Saturday morning, 9:30 to 10:30, really high octane. But she set out her stall as being a judgment-free, pressure-free class.
Amazing.
And it's all about having fun. So she's always like, you go this way, I go that way, it doesn't matter, and she shows the different levels you can work at, and it's full. And it's full of people of different ages, different sizes. My girls both love it because they don't feel judged.
Sounds amazing. That just reminds me actually at the end of term when the kids, maybe when they're a bit younger, actually not now, but when they were younger, early teens, maybe tweens, at the end of term, the games teachers would go, right, we're just going to play dodgeball, we're going to have fun today. And they were the best lessons. They talk about them because nobody could play, everyone was a beginner at these particular fun games and it was just fun.
Yes.
Rather than we are going to now do football.
It's the earnest side.
You're in the A's and you're in the B's and you're in the C's.
Exactly. And not everyone's competitive. No. And actually it can make them feel uncomfortable and like they don't want to do it because it feels like they're supposed to be good at it and they're not going to be good at it. Then why do it?
Yeah. And I think kids stop the minute they don't feel that they're good at it unless they've got somebody there nudging them along. If it doesn't feel good, then they stop.
Absolutely. So, we can put on music at home and dance around the kitchen, which I used to do a lot. Try rollerblading, any of the other things that might, if we go out and look for stuff. I found a park nearby recently where they have open water swimming. And my girls went, I'd try that. And amazing. I've also recently found jiu-jitsu. And my girls absolutely love it.
Brilliant.
Love it because you can grapple and girls aren't given that opportunity at school.
Yeah, that's so true.
So, that's a very different thing for them. A really interesting one that my friend mentioned was, sometimes don't tell them. So, for example, she said, I had this big fight with my boys trying to get them out because we're going to go for a hike and they don't want to go. And then when they got there, they loved it. Yeah. And, one of my friends said, just don't, just go, right, we're going out. And when they say where, just go, I don't know, let's go and see the seaside. And then when you get there, go, oh my gosh, let's walk all the way over to those, right?
Yeah.
Let's go and see if we can, and just make it into something fun rather than really earnest. Actually, because I know with my daughter, if she comes out hiking with us and we've got quite a competitive family who are quite fit, she doesn't like it because everyone's going too fast. And so actually if I make it about, hey, let's just go and have fun, take photos of flowers and see the waterfall, much more interested.
Yeah, I was thinking about, the getting them out in that way, that kind of works when they're younger, doesn't it? I'm not sure. When they're older, does that still work?
I don't know. It does with me.
I used to bribe mine with a hot chocolate at the end.
Bribery is great. You can still do that. And I do think that actually teaching them how to incorporate things in their everyday. So I realized when I was a teenager that I was getting out of shape and I was putting on weight. I went on a bus. It was 10 miles from my home and it went around the town and then ended up at my school. So I found out if I got off right as soon as it got into the town, I could walk to my school in about the same time, but I get exercise.
Brilliant.
Walk up the stairs. Just throwing things into the day.
And I think that's really important, isn't it, for all of us, but I think that's a great idea for teenagers, because we are very sedentary, and we're more sedentary than we used to be. So incorporating every day, always take the stairs, or get off the bus to stop early. I think it's brilliant.
Yes.
I think they call it micro exercise moments, isn't it? And putting them into practice.
So putting all those things in, gardening, all the chores, everything, these things are still active, but it's actually just not sitting down time, and make that screen time count. Just say, you spent this much time on your screens, you need to actually counteract that with some exercise, something.
Yeah. When my eldest had really bad back issues, he was quite stubborn about whether he should do exercise or is it all the things he was told to do. So I got some very cheap equipment and just sort of left it around the kitchen, like an elastic thingy or a skipping rope, and I got one of those screw in the door frame, swinging things. I can't remember what they're called.
Oh,
we still got it, and it's just too tempting to not do it as you're walking past. And so I was like, yes.
That's like really good.
Doing
I
it,
like that.
Yeah, and like a wobble board, things like that. It's too tempting not to try it as you walk past.
Yes. Just sticking it in the path. Yeah. Also, like you said earlier, making it social really does make a difference. So actually getting together, maybe a couple of their friends and saying, right, I've seen this activity, let's all go together. And cheering them on, watching sports together. So I think what actually happens is a lot of boys grow up watching sports and they're only now starting to air a lot of female sports.
Yes, that's so true.
And talking about them on the TV or talking about them on the radio. This makes a difference.
Yeah, the girls' football team or the women's football team has made a huge difference with girls' football. Huge.
Yes.
It's amazing.
So it's just, you need to make it so that this is something girls do and that girls can enjoy. Yeah. Pressure free.
And it's a life skill. It's not whether you get into the A's or B's tomorrow. It's a life thing.
Yes. And notice, compliment them when they're doing well and they're enjoying it, because everyone flourishes when they're noticed for doing these things.
We do have to be careful at the other end, though, I think, and this is just like a tiny little awareness thing of I've seen it with people around me, just keeping an eye on people who are maybe exercising too much.
Very good point.
Turning into
really important
an obsession or a sort of eating disorder, because I think running is a classic one for that.
Yes,
and it looks really healthy. It looks really amazing, but just having an awareness that it can become too much, and it's never the running that's the problem. It's a symptom of something else, but just keeping an eye on it.
I think that's absolutely spot on, and we talked about that in the bigorexia episode with boys as well. It's just watching, when does it tip over into, because you encourage it and you say, oh, this is great, you're healthy, you're exercising. Yeah. When does it become something that actually isn't healthy because it's obsessive and it's actually damaging them?
We want to do sport to be fit, to be strong, to be healthy, not to lose weight.
So just to finish off, Nicola did message me and she said, hey, good news. We've joined Parkrun.
Parkrun's brilliant.
And she's enjoying it.
Yes.
What a great, now I don't know how many countries around the world this exists in, but what a great thing to do. And I know more and more people who do parkruns. And it's one of those things where it's not about the competition, although that spurs people on. But it's very, there is competition, obviously, right at the top end. But it's a very welcoming community.
It's brilliant. You can walk around it.
You can walk around it. And what a great idea.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
So really I think that's wow, Nicola, well done for you. Yeah. What a great tip.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah, so if nothing else, just turn up. My husband's running a half marathon on Sunday and I'm excited about going just to get the atmosphere.
It's really fun.
I mean, I'm just holding the sponge. I'm not.
Very important job. And one thing I did want to mention that we haven't talked about is your own kid is like, they respond really differently, don't they, to things, and just bearing that in mind as well. My child who had the back issues sort of refused to do the maintenance afterwards, which was quite frustrating. He's very stubborn. I would say this to his face. And I actually texted him earlier to see, did he have any ideas, any tips? Because it was quite relevant. Because he now works out totally voluntarily, wants to do it, and he's doing some martial arts and he does football for fun. So I was like, well, how did that happen? And it was one of those classics where, I was trying to get him to do it and he was going, no. And I backed off. And then it took quite a few months. And suddenly I heard him telling people how great it was to work out and how much better he felt. And I was going, wow, you don't say. But, whatever it takes.
But you gave him the permission to find it for himself by backing off.
Yeah.
I love that.
I mean, he was supposed to be doing it. It was medical, so it was a bit different. But he's got the personality that he needed to take ownership for himself. My other kids are different. One of them needs a bit of a nudge, and one of them, needs to be told, okay, you don't need to go to 5 practices this week. I think you're tired. You need to not. You need to also rest. So it's kind of judging your kid.
Spot on. Yeah, they're all going to be different. Yeah. So a special thanks to Nicola for raising this excellent topic. I think it's a really good one, don't you? Yes. And I actually think it's one of the episodes that you can get your kids to listen to if they can be bothered to wade through this very long chat about it. But if you have...
Yeah, it's interesting as well that it was triggering for you to hear that this morning. And because it is quite a tricky one, isn't it, to get the balance right?
Yes, because I feel I always... And I have said to my girls... I feel really guilty because I feel like I didn't get you doing team sports young enough. Like I should have taken you to the tennis courts. I should have done this and I should have got you going. And they said, no, mummy, thank you.
Oh,
thank you. We don't feel like we missed out at all. And we would have been really irritated if you'd... I mean, my daughter was given a space on the swimming team and she said she didn't want to do it. So I just said, fine, okay.
Perfect.
So I just think... But I still am plagued because I think...
Parent guilt.
Yeah, parent guilt. Stop it, Rachel. As long as they're healthy and they're fit, and that's really what matters.
That's the thing, isn't it? That's the thing, and that's the worry, isn't it? If they're not doing anything,
and it's the social side of it as well. I think that's anyway. If you have any feedback, you can reach us at teenagersuntangled@gmail.com. Hit the follow button on your app. Give us some stars, even leave a review. You can find more on the website, www.teenagersuntangled.com. You can also find us on all social media. Susie has her very own website. You've also been doing some really good work with Google and HSBC. Lots of stuff about mindfulness. Yes, good stuff. Good. So, and she talks about that in some of her stuff on her website. So have a look at that. If you actually want to talk to her, you can reach her there. You can book a free chat with me if you so wish. Yes. Tell us what the website is. It is www.amindfullife.co.uk. Fantastic. You can find the link in the podcast notes. That's it for now. Goodbye for now.